What is up, guys? How we doing? Sorry for that. I did. I had no idea. I did not. I had no idea. I had no. So I just kept looking around. Okay. So, I have a temporary fix for the mic, and secondly, I don't know. I was trying to hold off, see what was happening. Can't tell. Some electronic work is. Go ahead and. So, we should start with the pub. We are going to go through a very interesting article that I read by my favorite YouTuber, John Bartholomew, and we're gonna have some fun. So takes, can hit forward, could be. Takes. Oh, okay, there's no check. Takes, rook takes. This is the only option that kind of like makes. Is that it? Takes. If rook takes, queen comes in. If rook back, if queen comes, I think it's just. And the point is that you can also win. Thank goodness he didn't ask me. So you go in here. You just front push. It looks so simple. But I doubt it. Because here takes, queen blocks. The queen can't block. Is it really that simple? Kind of doubt it. Here, check me. That really just it. That doesn't feel too simple. Give me a second. I want to confirm. No, not. It really that simple. I don't like. It can't be that simple. What am I missing? Check. This is the only square, and this should be me. The queen can't block. Like, is it really that? It can't be that. No, I just. I think I know what it is. I think I know what it is. I'm now seeing the rook coming. If we start with this, no, he can't. Yeah, I think you start with it. Queen check is. Check. I think this is the first. This could be the first move, but after check here, in h5, queen comes in. Block. Pawn takes. But if the queen comes in here, you have this. And I don't know how else your opponent, like, okay, so here, let's say you even play this. Have this. That end. Just be that quiet move. It could just be like f5, but I'm so yes. I was so convinced. I was so convinced because like I don't see what happens after, like, this is so obvious, but like after we get into this position, I don't see what. I think he would have to play this. Ah, wait, yeah, he's up. Okay, okay, okay. That would have even cemented the idea in my mind. Okay. Six, six. Our opponent have to step. In which case we can play this. But this pawn can't move. Play this move to catch this guy down. So that if he makes a move with it, eventually you are going to get Zooks. So I think it's just this. And F. No, wait. Yeah, I think you can still play F4 here. But if you play king here, he plays this move and you can't move the. Whoa! So it is just king. But, oh, yeah. My calculation was correct. I thought. Oh, I forgot. What am I trying to say? He has to defend this guy. But I mean, can't he just still like takes? If I come in, I've already saw. But I'm still supposed to. That's. I'm wondering, like, what if when I use this, my opponent plays. They are both. I think they are both. You take care of threatening checkmate. Our opponent has a full set of checks. Queen comes in check. I started without you. Cillian are literally doing they are literally doing what you offer. Called Zooks one, yeah, it is called. Yeah. No, I did get that whole thing. I did get that there was Zugzwang there. What I was trying to figure out was whether or not it was necessary for me to play the king, right, rather than focusing on opposition. Because I was kind of worried about the pawn push. If my opponent pushed the pawn, he would kind of have locked my pawns, and I couldn't, right? But then I realized that, oh, even if he pushes that pawn, I still get the advantage, like you're saying with Zugzwang and opposition, because I can eventually push the pawn far up, slide my king over, win the weak. That's basically what I was looking at. So we have takes here. Queen comes in check, king comes in this way, and then this is where you have to about things. We check here. Are we just fine? Bishop takes check. Oh, wait. If he comes queen check and then we come in this way, this rook doesn't work. Right? Because we can just play bishop takes. Then he plays the other rook in and we come in this way. Queen can take here. That is not a big deal. Check. Here. Queen comes in check. We just go back. That's a draw. I think we come in. But so queen a8, sorry, bishop takes f3, queen a8 check, king d7. If we play queen if we play queen a4, king e7, queen here. I want to be convinced that this is the... Let's play this. Let's come in here. Okay, so he uses this rook. Bishop takes. Or what if I come in this way? Ah, no, queen comes in check. The reason I don't want to actually take is because I lose the checkmate threat. Because like if I come in this way, my opponent can take here with check, right? And even if he comes here with check, I can just hide here and he no longer has a check, right? He has to play like rook here, which I can trade off. Right? If I take here and then he plays queen takes and then I come in here, the queen is still... No, the queen is not under any pressure. And I lose the checkmate. Right? I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. It should be good for me even if I play bishop takes. I think so. But let me see. So let's say king e7, queen a3. Yeah, then what if he plays this? Ah, then in that case we just go take. Right? I think that's basically... I don't think we take. As much as I want to take, I don't think we take. Okay, so we slide off. If rook takes, we just go checkmate, right? I think that's the case. Oh my god. Is it taking? Because taking is so simple, but I think my opponent survives. Whereas in the other position, like this guy doesn't take. I think both of that side. If I play this pawn move and it's wrong, I'll be so annoyed. So let's say I play this. Like I said, if rook takes, we just go for checkmate. So he can't do that. So let's say we step in here, a3, f7. He still can't take because of that. If he plays pawn push, we go takes, and then we just take, right? I think we don't. We take. I was trying to be fancy. I mean, it's obvious, but I'm like, wait, am I completely about that? I don't think I'm completely about that, right? I don't think king to c1 is... King to king to e7 is wrong? Yeah, okay, check. Then here. Why did that not click? Why did that not click? Why did that not click? That was funny. Yeah, it's material advantage, but it's... Why did that not click? It's funny how this did not click. That was so obvious. That was so dumb. Like, look, if he doesn't have this, like, what do you do here? You play pawn push here, right? Let's say he doesn't have this. What do? You play pawn push here, you are losing, right? Oh boy. And AFM, Arena FIDE Master, who's the Arena FIDE Master? Okay, we are playing as black here. Okay, so a lot of calculation. Let's go. King, uh, pawn push. Let's just say king, pawn push, king, pawn push, king, pawn push, king, pawn push, bishop. That makes sense. What type of music is that? It's evergreen. Oh yeah, I think about Bunashe. What's up? It's what type of mic is that? It's a ProMate tweeter. So I thought I saw music. Wait, when did I didn't see that question. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Sorry. Yeah, it's a what do you call it? ProMate tweeter. I've forgotten how much I bought it. I bought it in like 2020, very long ago. My brother and I paid for it. That's when I was starting. Yeah, the mic. Yeah, that's it. Is the mic I've been using? I think your mic is even better than mine. Unless of course yeah, so I think that's it. But now the problem is I've calculated this straightforward line where my opponent is simply aiming to promote. I haven't calculated the other lines. Like, what if the king tries to defend? Like, let's see, the king tries. Am I safe in that line? This is what I haven't. And the thing is that like the thing is with like again like I've been always told lead chess puzzles are always and don't do draws. So I don't know. My opponent can come into the I don't know what. Wait. I think we get into this one. Eventually the king will have, but he doesn't have a bishop. And like we saw, my bishop simply comes in here and then he can't move. So eventually he would have to move all his pawn. Right? And then I'll just be doing this. I have a pawn here. I think that would be I think we just go with this. I need to figure this out. I need to see the long run. The long. Let's off. Let's look at this line I'm talking about. Yeah. Still winning, and okay, you could play the bishop there, but again, your opponent is going to do the exact same thing, right? Come in here. I messed up. I've messed up something. I could just thought I've messed up something here. Wait. So let's go this way. Let's play this. This. He can defend this way. I'm trying to get the draw. Wait, this is a win? How? Okay. This is a win for black. Yeah. Yeah. We have this and then we can now just dilly-dally around here. And our opponent doesn't have the pawn. Eventually the king would have to leave. Then we can play this and then yeah. That was, I don't know, that was just I saw the line, I saw the idea, but I couldn't. Okay. One more. Check here. Check here. Ooh. There's knight check. Takes. Queen comes in check. I was looking at this, but check. Knight or bishop blocks. In which case you can play this. Takes and then you take. Check. If he blocks with the knight, fine. But if he blocks with how about just check here? DCA checks captures attacks. I'm looking at the check. Oh wait. If check no check, he can come. You can take here. Check. Would have to come back. Check here. Check. Look with the mate or the bishop. I was right. I wasn't so convinced about like winning just this guy. Like it just didn't make. Oh, okay, we are threatening. I'm not accepting challenges, but for you, I can definitely take a challenge. Here for long, and I mean you also do streaming. For you, I can take a challenge for you. It's not. Oh boy. What will my opponent do? He comes back. He can. Okay. Okay, that was actually very. So okay. So what we'll be doing is after I take 5 minutes. What we'll be doing basically is it's like 10 years. Yeah, this. Okay. gives very good points that I think okay. Yeah, so he tackles quite a number of things. Oftentimes, like people who are new to chess ask. That's what we're going to look. It's quite normal advice that he handle. Is it? But I can just use it. Just sends the link straight up there. Hmm. So oftentimes, um, some people ask like how you think like planning and all that kind of stuff. And he also tackles kind of like the a good read. I didn't finish reading it, but it's a good. Okay. Lots of. Hmm. What about the line? Like has some lines. Don't click. I think it's castles. I often get tripped up when I don't remember the exact analysis. I think there was like can't. Let's. Takes. Too low for me. I do feel like I have a very, in as much as like my position is materially speaking, I'm bad. I do feel like I have very good. It's definitely not straight. Okay, I'm thinking too much. I'm thinking too much. I think the way he went about that specific issue, he could have played C. Should have played. I think that's wrong. West is a draw, right? Takes. Check. I don't know. I know I have to play that. I mean, there's no thought about that. Ah, wait, we can just play this, right? Because if I go check, if I go check here, check, you can run this way. I think this move just. Ah, no. He just goes with this. I take, and then it's so let's just draw the game. There's no point in. There's no point in. Maybe there is. I actually just realized this. My time is just low. Maybe there was something here. Maybe there was something here. Good game, yeah. Maybe there was something here. I don't know. Of course, the plan was very simple. Or anyways, or drop doubling here was fine. I want to consider this a bit. But like I was thinking, if I played this again, time is low. Material would be okay. Material wouldn't be even, but I thought he was fine there. I thought he was fine if I played the rook first. For example, if I had played this with the intention of playing, I just thought this just survives the position. I thought so. I was thinking so. Maybe I was wrong in my analysis. I don't know. Or what else? Because like I couldn't figure out like a real saving grace for him. I couldn't figure out a real saving grace for him. Because I mean, yeah, he could even do that. Yeah, that was me just. Yeah, he could just do this. That was about it, right? Yeah, I think I made the best option there. What I was thinking about is this. This is where my mind is. Okay. Because check, he can't go back. So check here is one of the things. Here, check here. Yeah, this probably was it. I think it's forcing, right? Yeah, I think it was forcing. Yeah, this wait, what? Here, check here. Was it forcing? Yeah, does he have any other move? No, he has to play. Yeah, this was forcing. That was forcing. Yeah. I couldn't, like, the time was low and I couldn't calculate it out. The time was low, I couldn't calculate. I knew. Someone's like, oh, this is obvious. It's a common chess or something motif, but I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, but this I think I was losing until you did this move. It's this move that I think. I mean, I get the point. You were fully aware of me jumping in here with mine, and I could also just come back here and a similar idea occurred. Right? So I'm sure that's what you were looking at, which is why I'm sure you played. But when you played this, you locked. Very nice game. Very nice. Let me just be sure that I was losing, because I was very sure I was losing. Actually, when you play this move, whew, I missed meat. Yeah. Okay. Let's read this. Yeah, E7 just gave me. I was just hoping that this. I mean, it's too easy. Unless you make a mistake, I think it's too. What I was kind of hoping for is something like this. Because it doesn't. It's it. But the problem for me with this move, my move, in case you don't go with it, yeah, I have some. Okay. Switch. Yeah, so every time I mention John Bartholomew, he is where I started learning. So I copied his. Okay. So basically, he played this Lone Wolf Chess League. I was considering playing. It's I think 30 plus. Basically, he gave his thought process. Each video is about 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 2.5, which is, I mean, not standard for him. But he is giving tips on how to improve. So we'll look at some of the games. So he says he plays. Let's open this. This is the Tuesday study. So he came here to learn chess. Right? I'm going to learn a lot of boring stuff. But this is what helps you, right? This is what helps you. there is the practical side of chess where you play, and there's the theoretical, psychological part. And he's talking more of the psychological part of chess. And he does give some very good information. So if you haven't read it, let me put the link there. It's quite a long. I will be jumping as and when. So, lesson 1: keep an open mind to maximize your. Right. So he talks about this position in his game. So let's go to that. And we will jump the position in the end. So oftentimes we have these opposite bishop colored endgames. Ideally speaking, when you have opposite bishop endgames, ideally it's a draw. Like in theory, opposite bishop endgames are drawn, and the reason is very simple: because of the colored squares. So simply you put your pawns on the opposite colored squares of your opponent, and your opponent puts his pawn on the opposite color of your. None of you can enter, and it just becomes a whole back and forth. That's what. Right, so you can imagine the king blockading this guy. Let's say we get this pawn here. The king blockades it. Let me try and create a funny scenario. Something like, let's say something. I don't even know if this is correct, but I'm just trying to create a scenario here so that we can kind of, right? And it's your turn to move this here, right? The bishops can't interact with the pawn. Okay, maybe this bishop can interact with this. My position is my example is kind of bad, but you kind of get the point. You are kind of just going to be moving back and forth, because nobody can interact with the other pair, and it just becomes a because of the colored square. There are exceptions to this rule, right? And the exception is when one side has the attacking chance. So here, white has the attacking chance. But what he said here was, in the game, after his opponent plays this move, right? He says, where was it? Yeah. So I had just gone up 2 pawns, and I believe I ought to be winning. However, after Black's king move, I experienced the sinking feeling. Black's plan is to send the king to the king's side to prevent the h pawn from queening, after which they can sacrifice their bishop for the h pawn. So you can imagine something like, how would we? So let's say we have this. Yeah, let's go. Pawn push here. And let's say pawn push again here. Now, if you ever try to promote this pawn, for example, I mean, your opponent can even do this, right? And it's basically still there's nothing that can be done. There's no good interaction that can be done here. So his mindset is that this position is just a dead draw, and that's basically what his mindset was. He just closed his mind to the opponent simply because once the king gets here, he can just simply sacrifice his bishop, and it's just a clear cut draw, right? So, wait. This after which they can sacrifice. Yeah. As even with king bishop pawn versus king, I would have the famous wrong color bishop, right? So that's what I'm showing here. You need often, if you want to win this position, your bishop has to be the color of the queening square. If your bishop is not the color of the queen, a draw. Funny enough, I learned this at a tournament. I had no idea. I was playing against a guy, and it was a similar position, but he didn't have a bishop. I had a king, I had a pawn, but my bishop was low. I was like, damn, this is that's when I learned it. Okay, to help promote on the so judged by this sudden realization, I played a6. Right. So first of all, let's see. Is he correct in his evaluation that it was a draw? Right. The engine here says that has winning. But like he said, because he was worried about the position and what was going to happen, he decided to play this. And you see instantly the moment he plays a6, it's now a draw because the same position we cast. Pawn is not going, right? Same lines, right? You come in this way. It doesn't matter the move or have to defend bishop. You can't just lose the. So you want to save your bishop right here. And that's a very fair assessment. That's a very fair assessment. Indeed, after bishop to b8, black king made a beeline to the soon agree. Instead, king e4 would have been right. So he says after this move, what he should have done is to play this move. And tempo basically is getting a move ahead of your right. So oftentimes you make a move which your opponent has to, right? And in responding to your move, they kind of ends the tempo. So your opponent would have liked to maybe move his king something, right? But now with this move, you get your king closer to your, and more or less you are likely to. If that doesn't succeed, the incoming, if you can try and visualize this, you can see that this bishop would sacrifice for this pawn, but now you have this pawn promoted. Your pawn is there, right? Eventually, you can play pawn push. The bishop comes back to defend. You can, if your opponent tries to capture it, just retreat. And if your king is here, you like walk your king. Right? I'm speaking hypothetically. Right? So here, then you go king. I'm going to have to use the engine here because so we have bishop to g3, a6, king goes back, like I'm saying, pawn push, king comes in here, and then you defend. So the whole idea that I'm talking about is coming to fruition. Let's go in this way, play this, and from here you can actually see. You can just never do anything. You come in here, comes in here, play the king back. Bishop takes, bishop has to take, king takes, king back, and you just suddenly slowly bash, walk the. The opponent is eventually going to have to accept the fact that right. So what does he? So we are going to skip. So he says, why did I make this mistake? I had closed my mind to the possibility that I could still win. And we noticed this happening just now, right? Of course, there was an added element of, we saw this happening like in real time in my game, right? In my game against Ashi. I'm very bad at pronouncing. Right? I was thinking about a win, but I was like, it feels like my opponent has drawn. So I immediately stopped thinking about win, and I went straight for the idea that, right, just here. Again, there was an added point of time. I'm sure if I had more time, maybe I wouldn't have, but you can see the thought process. It just felt like, no, my opponent has something, so I closed my mind to any opportunity. Right? With the time I had, the checkmate could. 15 seconds is that little at this level. Not that little. It was later on, like as I was playing this and I agreed to it, that's when I. So that's what happened. Sure, the win was a bit nuanced and I was in a moderate, but the biggest problem was I no longer believed that I could end in a win instead of a draw. And this happens to me a lot. And I think it happens to most chess players, especially when you are up and come. It's very easy to assume that I'm adding more to like, it's very easy to assume that your opponent has the ability to stop everything. Sometimes I'm playing against someone, but I'm like, there's no way I can be winning against this guy. So I immediately tune off my any attempt of, and it's like from that point on, you're like, no. So sometimes it does happen. You have a winning position against someone, start thinking this, right? Or even your mindset about position. Like sometimes when it comes to end, I just have a mindset. I start messing up it. So your psyche is also very important. Always fight for it. Like, yes, you may know theoretically that the position is draw, but if the draw is a bit nuanced, eyes on your, you would have consider it, right? You have to just see like what is going on here. Just like you're winning, but against Akpa, exactly. Like you suddenly thought that okay, there's yours was also forward by time pressure, but you just felt like okay, let me just draw. I think this is the best I can. After you played that, is it you missed the whole winning opportunity. And it does happen a lot. Like that psychological part of very, 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 very important. Okay, so it says what? I hadn't anticipated the difficulty of winning with 2 rook pawns. The sequence that we've looked at all this. I was sort of throwing my hands up as if to say, well, it doesn't matter what I do now. I see Black's idea is a draw. Look, this is me. Like this is literally me. This is the common mental mistake. I should have known better. Always assume that any result is possible in a chess game. Right? There is zero downside to this, and the added benefit of this, but the one who has the play, right? You shouldn't instantly throw off, especially when it's 2. Like if it was just a singular pawn, fine. But this shows that there's a fighting chance. Like this kind of play is a fight. Yeah, you missed Queen C. There is a fighting chance. So you do have to play, right? There's this funny I saw. It was, I think, a world champion. And the interviewer was like, so Magnus, when did you realize that the position was a, because the position was a draw, I think, in team ago, let's play. They sat down for an hour. And I asked Magnus, when did you realize it was a draw? Magnus was like, I realized it immediately that it was a draw. But there was a certain possibility that if his opponent missed, it was a very nuanced position. If his opponent missed, I think it was, if his opponent missed that opportunity, he would have lost the game. And it's similar with his game against Nepo, right? The last World Championship. I think King Pawn Bishop versus Queen or something like that. That game 6, right? It was a draw, but the man pushed till it was a win, right? He's squeezing water out of. So always have that mentality, right? If there's a chance, even though it looks drawn, this may not relate. This may be difficult for maybe a beginner to understand. Sometimes with your knowledge on chess, you can tell that certain positions are drawn. Like they give you the vibe of a drawn position. And sometimes when you notice that whole flourish idea, you tune your very good. Let me go to my study. Let me go to my study. Where was it? It was a drawn position, but there were things I could do. Yeah. This was my game against Francis Akon, right? and we got to this position. We got to this end game. I'm trying to get to the last. We got to this end game, where I eventually conceded to the, because I had been defending throughout the game, right? I had been defending throughout the game, and I finally got a sigh of relief, realizing that this rook can. And again, this is a very strong player. You can see my FIDE rating is 1900. He's somebody who plays in the national, and this I think is my second time playing or something like that. So I realized that wait, I'm no longer on the defense. I now have some push. Like, look at the position of my king. My king is very active. The pawns are going to be equalized very soon. Now, in as much as so this is what happened here. In as much as my opponent agreed draw, there were ideas that I could have tried to, in terms of looking at a win. Right? You can see that these guys are stuck here. You can try and build up something, right? Eventually, maybe even both considered here. Like, if he does this, there's some funny line we consider. I think it has something to do with this takes some line across the, like some line here. At this point, white is the one who is pushing the envelope. Throughout the game, I felt like it was even and black was creating chances. But at this point in the, you can easily see that no, white is the one who, like, the king and the rook are very stuck here, right? And you are targeting this backward pawn, which means you can even start with a slow move like f4 at this point. Takes, and now you are pushing for. But I was of the mind that now this position, he's a tough opponent. There's no way I'm winning. Let's just draw it. That's exactly what he's talking. It's a mentality that you have, especially even if you're a beginner, you have to fight that man. Always look for him. That's why the advice is given is never resign. The points behind never resign, always look, always find chance. Right? When there is no chance, that's when you resign. But always look for it. Okay, so there's zero downside to this mentality. Okay, if you have king, queen, rook versus king, obviously you know you can't lose, but you could certainly still stalemate your opponent's loan. Maintain vigilance to the end. At time you score extra half point and full point. Yes, beginners like us. You know the funny thing, I used to think that I'm a strong chess player because chess.com, I'm the 99. Oh, then I watched a video by John Bartholomew and he's playing against a 2000 rated. Like, okay, so he's an average player. I'm like, what? He's average? In case you're wondering, 2000 on chess. Okay, to maintain vigilance to the end, and over time you score extra half points, where a less flexible player would have got careless in, or even prematurely. How many times has international master? Your mental dialogue is your, and this, I mean, if you are new to chess, this is the main point I really hammer on. Right here, he's talking about keeping an open mind to results. This is just knowing that there are possibilities and going for them. But this is talking about the move. This is your move by move thing. This is something you do move by move, right? I recall when I've deleted that series, but I was doing a series climbing, like I called it a chess walkthrough, where I started a new account, like showing you how you can basically what chess bras do, or what everybody does. And I was trying to explain this. And I was playing against one of, and he just kept. He was like, "Why am I so? Yeah, I should make a move." You know, it just shows that guy wasn't. Now, a major benefit of doing live commentary that both the viewers and I have a largely unambiguous record of what I was thinking about on every move. Watching these 2 to 3 hour videos back has been extremely insightful in adjusting and tightening up. I feel like an athlete watching it. If you dig into some of these videos, you notice that I tend to articulate my thoughts by asking and answering a series of questions. So after this point, I'm going to play a 15 Hopefully, I don't do. And I'm going to try and demonstrate this. I often don't say everything that I'm thinking. I say the key. Oftentimes, you are thinking about so, but I'm going to try and focus on a very important thing. And if you want Sicilian Ninja, I can play that game against a casual 50. But if you would rather want to listen, don't worry about that. I'll just look for it. So, what was the point of my opponent's last move? It's the first thing you should always think about. Don't be so quick about thinking about what should I do. It's what was the point of my opponent's last move. That's the first thing you should figure. Don't try and figure any other thing. Just why did he make that move? What is the point of that? Because, like I always say, you know what you want to do, right? I know what my plan is. The question is, what is my against my, or what is my opponent's actual plan, and how do I fare against? Is his plan so dangerous that I have to like stop my plan, deal with his, or is his plan so bad that I can? Right? It's something you should always think about. Another salient one. We are going to chess.com. I'm showing you like practical ways. Right? I'm going to show you like a way I figured out. Of course, I ended up messing up that, but I managed to survive. Many people might have messed up that just because they. So it was my last year or last 2 years, I think. I think it was last 2 years President's Cup Nationals. So it was last year. Yeah, it was last. No, it's not this. This is. Let me go. I think it's last 2 years. I have so many. I didn't know I have so many games. Okay, yeah, 2023. It was my game against. This was the national that I almost qualified for phase two. I was 5 points or 5.5 points. And you know, you need 6 to qualify. So I was playing against this kid, Maoli Rich, and the guy put me under a serious attack, and it got to a point in the position I had to figure something out. And so we get to U block. What's that? Am I showing something that you shouldn't? Maybe I am. I'm guessing it's something that has to do with likes. So let's just skip over to this point. Now you see what he's doing. See how my opponent. Then he castles. Okay. Then he castles here. So now I have to ask myself, like, okay, not the land. Shaki, you should know which stream you're on. But look, if you don't want to see London, just pray that this stream will be cancelled. Because the moment this stream becomes, everybody will. That is my. Anyways, so you can see the trick my opponent is playing. Castles. Now he has castle. You don't just go, oh my god, free knight, right? You don't just go free knight, right? Because you have to ask yourself, like, what is this guy trying? What is he trying to me? That's the first thing you have to try. What is my? Right, so I figured that whole thing out. Basically, if you take this guy, you just you didn't take. So my opponent sees that, and the castles is not because he wants me to. Of course, he's tricking me to take. Actually, I remember at the end of the game, he was like, he's shocked I didn't. I'm like, bro, how do you look at me? I think because my rating at the time, I was very underrated. I think I've started professional. I should have increased my skill a little bit. I would have had a better start, and I was going to take it for me to like 80. Anyways, so if you do take this, I don't remember the lines exactly, but I think after takes, you might want to play the queen. Stop any of this, any ideas here, but I think if it's any check, Um, check. I have to use the engine. I don't remember what line was. Takes queen d4. Queen d4 is what you would have. And then you would run into rook b8. If you block with the bishop, there was a problem with block. I can't remember. I think block with the bishop, then there's c3. Not c3. Rook c to b5. You just go down a piece. Listen, with this, you just go down a piece. I can't remember. No, there was some killer line I couldn't remember here. There's some killer line. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, but you get the point. You get the point. There was a killer line I can't seem to remember. I don't want to. But I realized that taking this pawn is bad. Taking this knight is bad. But then I had to ask myself, what is the point of castling? And then it suddenly makes sense. My opponent's plan is to play, right? And if he can like weaken my king side, there are possibilities of him like this. Because I just can't take this guy regardless. I just can't take it. So I realized that, okay, this is my this move. How can I? So once you have identified what your opponent is going, then you consider. And the question is, can I ignore? Right? By ignoring it, do I have to do something that deals with this exactly, like the move itself? That's what I mean here. There's no easy way of doing something like that. I could maybe play like this move here, but then I ask myself that, is there something else I can do besides just like trying to deal with this in this moment? And then I realized that, wait, I can try and create a. So I have been on the defensive for so long. My opponent makes a move. It's a very crucial move. I have to figure out. Imagine I just go about doing whatever. I can just. No, you won't survive. You down a piece. Down a piece. Oh, you'll be down a piece in the long run. The whole point is you'll be down a piece and your king will be weak. Yeah, that's true. But I figured out here that I could just go h4. He goes a5, h6. He now goes for his idea. I take. If you take, I take here. This is what I was looking. So my opponent takes with his pawn, and then I now play. But if you continue, as long as I wasn't wrong, I have this. Or I can even trade off. So he takes. King a1. Okay, then let's look at it. Like I do this. This is not the point of this, but the point is, taking was wrong. That's the whole thing. Taking is just wrong. Takes here, queen d8, rook here. You can play king a1. King a1 was king a1. Rook c to b5, coming for check. Bishop to e. Some of the moves you can play. Then you can just go e. And wait, sorry. This is not a comfortable position to. Black is literally just putting all the pressure on. The way I went about it was actually and eventually you lose the piece. The way I went about it was just fine. It still maintained it. This actually gave me more of a winning chance, taking that risk. But I do get where you are coming from. If your opponent, since your opponent will be playing down the piece a bit, if he doesn't know what to do and he makes a mistake, you are more liable to win. So you are basically applying what we're reading in an open mind. Even an open mind to maximize your result. In my mind, I felt like that attack was just very dangerous. I saw some, I saw some very crazy lines. That's why I was like, that. But you get the point. I did not just rush to make my move. I had to first of all put my right. So that mental dialogue is good. So what was the point of my opponent's last? My opponent could have played a lot better, but he was very aggressive. So before anything else, I tried to identify what my opponent. If I were my opponent, why would I have played that move? What options should I consider in reply? Right. So like I said, do I capture the knight or do I go for h5? Trying to count. It says I like immediately listing at least one or two, which I always do. I still let my mind wander freely, which I struggle with. This is so in this tournament. The funny thing, that tournament that I where I said I almost qualified, that tournament I played where I almost qualified. My strategy was this: I would look at the position for like 2-3 minutes, and I would get up and then I would make my move and get up, because I realized that every single time I sit down to consider, I get honed in or one on one or two, and I can't seem to see any other thing. So my plan was to just play quickly, leave the board and come. It made every experience on the board very like lively. It is at some high level, your opponent is super accurate. But the proof that it works is looking at Magnus. Magnus is the one who exemplifies this whole, because most people would in the position that Magnus would say that it's a draw, and most of those positions are a draw. That's why they say he squeezes out of, but they are. There was this interesting end game he played with the opponent had a rook. It's some very interesting, and it was a theoretical draw. His opponent played every move correct until he missed one. That was all. So yeah, in as much as yes, high level players will see it, I think still trying is not bad. Still trying, bad. So, but having a couple of candidate moves gives me a useful roadmap for calculation, unless my reply is forced. This is almost always the most time consuming. Number 3, I'm ready to play a move. Is my move safe? Wait, I missed some. You're losing either way. So in that game I was. Magnus does that to everyone. I actually at the point in that game, at that point in that game, I was actually winning. Sorry, I had the edge, but I allowed him to keep. At the point, I was afraid. I was like, oh no, this point is. Okay, so the consistency and quality of your thought process determines the exact questions you ask yourself. So mostly the problem for beginners is that they don't know what to ask, right? So when we say ask yourself questions, they actually don't know what to ask. The simple way to ask is what my opponent, but what about your opponent's last move? Since they don't have much experience about, they ask the wrong question, or they answer the questions in the answer the question. Don't have the right info. Don't have the right. So they see a knight movement. Oh, he's just moving the knight, but it's more than just. There's a specific way that the knight, right? If you can realize that, okay, he moved the knight in this specific square because he wants to maneuver his knight this specific. Once the knight is out, he controls very key squares and has a very. That's where I think the and you get that by either watching videos. The grandmasters would. Magnus is the worst player to learn. I agree. He's an anomaly and his style is not. I 100%. Actually, I often like to tell people that don't try, and if you want to look at openings, you can look at the openings of, but don't really focus on, because their games are hard to understand. Sometimes the reason I don't do analysis is on the level tournaments that got more difficult for me. I struggle to understand. So yeah, I would say that refrain from them. You can use them in certain areas, but refrain from it. It's very difficult until you get to their level of understanding. Watching their games will confuse. I've learned that if you're fundamental, sometimes leaving your brain to a loss of, that's your intuition. So the exact questions you ask yourself. So that's what you have to build on. You have to build on your information, right? And that's what post-game analysis helps you to ask the right question. Because you look at the game and you're like, oh, okay, so the reason he moved his knight there is because he wants to occupy this square. But sometimes unless somebody has told you what an outpost, unless somebody has explained certain key, you wouldn't know, right? So sometimes you just have to learn. Like you just have to. The order you answer these queries and the relevance to the position of you may vary. Sometimes there won't be much talk about to yourself. Example, when you have a forced move or a recapture. But I can't emphasize how important it is to cultivate and follow some form of mental dialogue that makes, even when the move is forced, even when it's forced to capture, you should still consider. Like, okay, so we capture, what happens? Someone says that whenever we evaluate them, sometimes you have a mindset about it, but the position is, so it gets to a point you just pause and you ask, what is, it's not the same position. What has, right? I recommend trying the Socratic I don't know what. Oh, okay, that's what he's talking about. This is a nothing burger. Ah, well, I think for most, as like it's not a difficult thing to do. Yes, it isn't, right? Doing so structures your thoughts, keep you focused on solving the task in front, and cuts down on mistakes. What I will advise, though, he literally says thinking. No, but he's not saying thinking. He's talking about the approach. He's talking about the approach. You know, there's a way you can think which doesn't. There's a way you can consider your position which doesn't merit or which doesn't give you the right response. I mean, you could say that he's saying that thinking is better than not thinking. There's a much broader spectrum. He's trying to talk about what you should consider in your thinking and how you should think about the, like, for example, he says here that where is it? He says the exact questions you ask yourself, the order you answer these questions, and their relevance to the position. So he's not just saying think about the position, he's telling you how you should think about the position, or the ways in which you should think about the position. Right? It's very, I mean, everybody knows that we have to think, but what should I consider is basically what he's saying, right? Most chess players aren't really thinking in an organized fashion. They are mostly reacting or bouncing around. We want to retain our process and the regardless of the calm chaos of the position. We eventually get to the point where this internal dialogue is as natural as we are all there. By the way, when my opponent is on move, I'll think broadly about how the game may proceed. But I'll use that time to we all know this. Thinking on your opponent's time is what he's saying. I'll also relax a bit more. You can be less rigorous when your opponent. Yeah. So okay, I'm not advocating some sort of algorithm or system to find the best. This doesn't exist, and anyone claiming good chess can always be inferred from simple or easy principles. Thank God I am not part of that. Maybe I am, I don't know. I am advocating a framework that gives us the best chance of understanding the position and producing consistently good decisions. Okay, I don't know that basketball. Think of a basketball player about to shoot a offer going through their pre-shot. This is what we are looking to understand. So Shaki, do you get it now? I'm defending Bartholomew to the end. Anyways, like what Shaki is saying is true in summary, but I don't fully agree that he's just thing. So let's do a 15. And I'm going to try and verbalize everything, which is not healthy. I'm going to try and do that. But you notice that in the opening, I'm not going to be saying much unless my opponent does something or something that I'm not. But the opening, we are not going to spend. The opening is like, you already know it. Right? It's the middle game where no one says, thank God we are playing white. Shaki, you can close your eyes. Shaki, you can close your eyes. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen, Shaki. You can close your eyes. You can close your eyes, Shaki. Shaki, you can close. Of course, he's not saying anything original. That's what I'm saying, that this is for the beginners, those who haven't considered it. Right? The first time I heard it, it changed. So I've stayed, and yeah, I agree that it's nothing new or original. But some people aren't. I don't have to, but it's not forced. It is. It is. I can't do anything. My hand. I'm trying not to play it. Trying not to play with my hand. My hand. So you can see, like I said, I'm not caring so much because the opening is like you know what to expect. It's when your opponent plays something like this. I already know what to do. When you don't know what is good, that's when you. He's gonna. Ideally, what some people play is c6. And if we come in here, queen comes in. And what you do is you. The best way to improve is to stop playing the. I disagree. Okay, so this. Now I have to pause a bit. Right? So what I was expecting. This is the move I was expecting. I was expecting the queen here. Right? And then after c5, takes. Then white is in a definitely winning position. White is definitely in that position. Right? But my opponent plays the queen here to defend this. And this is actually considered very bad. Sorry, inaccurate or passive. Right? So I know I'm better here. But the question is, how do I make my... I already have like moves I can... But we can just take our time. So for example, rook to c1. Why rook to c1? If you've watched my shots, if you haven't, you will not notice that rook to c1 is a candidate. So when the rook is on the same line as the queen, regardless of how many pieces you want to let that queen, right? So you could start with this move. But the question you have to ask yourself is, so this is why he was talking about the order, right, in which you answer these questions. Do I have to focus on castling, or do I have to focus on advancing my idea? That's basically what he's talking about. So a move like rook to c1 opens the possibility of, for example, if pawn takes, let's say even if our opponent plays like knight, jump here. Right? Of course, jump here is bad because of, right? But you can kind of understand the thought process. Or maybe you want to play a different move. You want to play knight here, by considering that your opponent, yeah, which is so maybe here, right? So why am I considering bishop to e? Right, when there are other things I can do. The problem piece for my opponent is my bishop. So if anything, my opponent is going to try to get this bishop out of there. Right? If I play knight here, I can play this. I come in here, he can play here pawn. I don't think that's good for my opponent, but he can do that. Other things he can do is after I come in here, try this, takes, and then he castles. Right? These are the many things my opponent can. But the one that I forgot my screen is touch screen. So I'm thinking about this move. Do I feel like it is slow? I play this move because it prevents the knight from coming here. It's still a developing move, right? My opponent can try and distract me after I play this move by playing takes. After I take, then he knight in here. We've already seen that whole put, right? Then we can either come it out. So yeah, we can play this way. So you see, if I think too much, that's how much my time goes. So oftentimes when I'm like doing these games, I don't verbalize all this. I don't even consider some of them because I know that it's not necessary to. So this move is just simply to prevent this. You don't really want to prevent this, in case you don't really want to prevent it. You can just simply go this way and let your opponent focus on it. Why he gets a very okay. We would like to play knights, but if we play knights now, that's his point. Actually, we can play takes, right? If we play takes and he takes this way, knight takes, pawn takes. Are we okay with? I'm not okay with allowing. A simpler move would have been h3 in case somebody. f3, knight here, pawn push. If he does pawn push, we just bring the bishop back. He takes, we take. But why is that significant? This is the right. I kind of want to play this move and see what my opponent does. I kind of want to play this. Or you can go knight f3. You can. I mean, knight f3 is not. So what, in this case, it's all a matter of style and preference, right? You can see I play a very passive, aggressive style. I'm more passive than I'm not aggressive, passive, but I'm changing the order of the words to show. My opponent has left the game. I mentioned that. I did mention that. But you did get the point of that, right? So I mentioned that if takes and I take and then he jumps in here, bishop comes in here. Let's say pawn push or something. The point is we are weakening side. Objectively, maybe. I wouldn't disagree that knight f8 is actually a. I'm just trying to explain certain things. But maybe I do kind of agree, because if he can take here, the only reason why this would still remain, and that's actually not the move. We could, I mean, yeah, that's not actually the move. Because if, let's say, we go here, takes, bishop takes, sorry, here takes, queen takes, sorry. Takes, queen takes, you get hit with this move. Like, maybe, no. I don't know. There's something there, but knight h5 is never. It wasn't a threat, Jackie. It's not a threat. I'm saying that if you want to keep this bishop alive, like if you want to maintain, you should consider. That's why I've played. But we are still going to play knight f3, which is going to. Yeah, I think I'm beginning to agree with you. This move is. Have something. Yeah, if I played now. I think he's going to play. That's what I'm kind of like. Not like my position. At first, I was liking my position, but I'm not like. Takes here, knight takes itself. H3 is too. I have to bite. I just have to bite the bullet. Yeah. The position is, it's not like black is winning, but I don't think I have as much of an advantage as I would have had. Is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that black has equalized, which is where black wants to. So I'm playing knight here, just allowing my opponent. It's with the way I did it, like Shaki was saying, knight here, if he had come this way, I would have easily got this move, weakened this position. But because of the way I went about it, my opponent now doesn't face any repercussions. So you kind of get the whole thing here. So you can see that I have ideas of what my opponent could do, and I'm making moves based on what my opponent could do. Certain potential plans that I have in the position. That is basically what he's talking about, right? The problem I think that at the beginner you have is that you don't know what to look at, right? The board is just there to you. Mostly what you see is I can move, I can capture. You don't really have plans in mind and everything. So you build that whole plan thing. I personally believe. Ooh. I did not expect that he would play. I'm actually very happy to. I was hoping he would play this. That's the point. Like, if he took here, I get a knight here. If he plays this, fine. I come back. But to just play back and then let him take, I don't think that. I didn't play without thinking. Like I said, I didn't mention everything. But yeah, the whole point was I was looking for this. I wanted that weakness. Oh, you are pissed off that I didn't mention it. What? He wants to bring his bishop there. Okay, so okay, Shaki. So he wants to place his bishop here to cover the weakness of his. Ideally, I would have loved to play this move instantly and attack. So I'm going to have to castle here. But once I castle, my opponent can't castle. If I castle, my opponent has to play a different move, right? So the plan is basically just to castle here. And the follow-up idea is to bring the knight because we want to open the file. And if we can double our rooks up on the file. The rooks, where rooks want to be is on open files. So, and you know, when two pawns are on the, when both players have a pawn file is when one player semi-open file, and when both players have a pawn. So semi-open files are good for rooks. Ideally, you want your rooks to. So by castling here, I'm expecting my opponent to try this by either moving the queen away. Actually, bringing the bishop here doesn't work. He has to move the. That's the only. As in which case I have knight here. If he castles, this and I don't know if it's going to happen the way I'm saying, but you kind of get the. You can't castle immediately. Once again, that's a pawn. I win a pawn in that whole back. Yeah, so he has to move the queen there, like we said. And now we have this move. If our opponent castles, jump in here, right? And then we have the Now what I'm thinking about is opponent castles, jump in here, right? And then we have the Now what I'm thinking about is